All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 5 Ways to Massive Profits. In this particular webinar, we're going to talk a lot about a systematic approach to a business making money. And it's a system that is scalable. So it's a way of approaching how to make money in a very scalable and plannable kind of process. So the first question is, what's keeping your business from peak performance? I want you to think a little bit about that. What is it that would help your business scale up massively to the level that you're interested in taking it to? So let's get started. I'm actually going to start by introducing us, but while I'm doing that, I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves. Now, I don't care if you do it privately or whether you do it publicly, but in the chat box, if you would, share who you are, what you do, how long you've been doing it, and what you hope to learn about today. And then we'll get started. While you're doing that, I will introduce us. I am a franchise owner for ActionCOACH. ActionCOACH is the world's #1 business coaching firm, and we base that on having more than 1,000 coaching offices scattered around 70 countries worldwide. We're privately owned and founded by Bradley Sugars, who himself is an entrepreneur and an author. He actually had owned several businesses before starting this particular franchise, which is the basis for much of the stuff that we do. The vision of the franchise is world abundance through business re-education. So we're trying to work to re-educate all of those business owners who are small business owners who are striving to build real abundance through their businesses. We coach over 15,000 businesses each week around the world, often principally US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and the rest of these countries, but throughout the world. I myself grew up in Rochester, New York. I have an electrical engineering degree from Clarkson University, and many years later picked up an MSBA from Bucknell as I decided to transform my career from a technical career to a business career. I have myself spent 20 years running small business units for large corporations. They operate much like a small business. The last business unit that I ran, I grew 300% in 3 years. So many of the things I focus on are the things I learned to do to make money, to make a business unit successful. And those are many of the things I focus on teaching people today, in fact. I've been a business coach, a mentor, and a trainer for 10 years, principally for business owners. So that gives you a little bit about me. So I want to focus on a concept here. And I want to focus on something we term a point of power. So that yellow circle in the middle is a point of power. And anything below that point, like blame, excuses, denial, tend to disempower. These are behaviors that we get into very easily. We hear of them all the time. These are behaviors that do not contribute to our success. So I want to think really deeply about what kinds of things do we do that put us into a thought of blame, excuses, or denial. COVID has been a spectacular example of an opportunity to blame and make excuses for what's going on around us that's not in our control, but that we really should be thinking more cleverly about how can we take advantage of the situation and use it to our benefit. On the other hand, there are behaviors of ownership, accountability, and responsibility that can help us actually transform our businesses to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. So I can think of an example of a person I was speaking to this morning, in fact, who owns a personal training business. And this person related that in the beginning of the COVID situation, it really changed his business dramatically and hurt him very badly. And then he took ownership of the situation and transformed how he's approaching his business. And he's finding great success, and he's transformed the way he intends to go forward in the future, regardless of COVID. And he believes that that will make his business far more profitable for him to continue doing. So that offers kind of an example how allowing the circumstances to control our point of view can get us into a place of disempowering us or making us powerless towards our goals. Whereas taking ownership of the situation and making a commitment to succeed and finding alternative ways to get there can really enhance our ability to get to where we want to go. So the secret to this game really is, how do we take ownership of the situation that we're in and make the commitment to go forward, design a plan for ourselves, hold ourselves responsible to perform that plan, and measure our results as we go and hold ourselves accountable. This is the real secret to building a business that takes us where we want to go. So if we think about that, the only failure then is the failure to participate. Now, what does that mean? Well, that really means that everything is just data, that this is a lab, that what we're really doing is trying stuff, see how it works. If it works if it takes us where we want to go, perfect. If it doesn't, well, then change it. Do the things that it takes to make yourself successful. Don't get married to a strategy just because you thought it up. Get married to a strategy that works. So focus on what works, try it, test it, measure it, and then see if it produces the results you're looking for so that you can make it be what you want it to be. Don't be afraid to change direction. Don't be afraid to change how you're doing what you do. And then where that takes us is this phrase, I know. Now, the words I and know are perfectly good words in the English language, but what do they do when they're used in this sequence? How do they help you move forward? Or do they really just stop you from learning what's could be a new way to approach something? Think about in your life, how do you emote the words I know, whether you say it that way or not? How do those come out in your thinking processes? Well, I know that won't work. It won't work for my business. My business is different. What are the things that block you from examining new ways that allow you to succeed because you're afraid to do something just a little bit different from what it is that you're doing right now? So what I suggest is get rid of that phrase in your vocabulary in all the ways it shows up, and replace it with the phrase, isn't that interesting? Look at look with curiosity at different ways to approach a problem. Be curious about what might work, what might not work, and what can help you get to where it is that you want to go. So what I hope to accomplish for you today is to help you find some BFOs, or what we would call blinding flashes of the obvious. Things you may have heard, maybe you heard them expressed differently, but what I hope to accomplish today is to help you see a couple of ideas that you could use in your business immediately that will help you move forward towards the direction you're trying to achieve. So, I'm going to start by thanking you for attending. In business, your time is your most valuable asset, and you're sharing it with me, and I want to thank you for that. Business does not have to mean busyness. So I want you to think about that. If you are finding yourself way too busy, this is an opportunity to stop and think, are there ways I can approach my time and do things just a little bit differently that helps me get more results for the same amount of time expended? It's how you invest your time that's going to be one of the keys to your future success. So with some of the simplest, I'm going to try to share some simple, easy, fast ways to increase your income by changing how you approach your time. I think I just shared in an example of one person who transformed how he's approaching his business, a business that ordinarily is a very people contact based business. I mean, personal training, that's physically in contact with people, going to their homes, doing things with people, working in a gym with people. That's a very specific example of personal contact business. And yet with over the last year, and it's been a year now, he has not been able to do business in that way. He's transformed the way he thinks about his business. He's doing it all virtual now. He's discovering the rewards of not having to have a gym. Therefore, he's not paying rent. He's discovered the rewards of not having to get into the car and go to people's houses. Now he can work with more clients, and they don't have to get in their car and go someplace, so they can make it fit their experience. So he's transformed. That's an example of increasing the efficiency of how a business can be done. Now, depending on what kind of a business you're in, the ideas will have to be a little bit different, but we can all approach business from a completely different set of angles if we just sit down and think about it a little bit. That's what I hope to share with you today, is a few ways to think differently about how you approach the business. So I'm going to ask you a little bit, what do you want from your business? What do you want from today? What would you like to share? Again, I'm going to share this. You don't have to do it publicly. You can do it privately. The chat box will allow you to do it privately if you feel a little bit shy about that. But please share with me, what do you hope to achieve out of today? Yes, Susie, that's a good point. How to run the business. And this isn't, you're correct. This is not from the nuts and bolts of the craft, but how do we run the business? And what I'm going to show today is capable of being a machine. If we only sit down and think about it in a systematic approach, this is a system, not a bunch of little tactics. So let's approach it from that angle and we'll move forward. And let's start with exactly that point. What do you think of as a successful business? What is the approach you think of when you think of business, and we're thinking small business here, when you think of business, what are you thinking of? What's a business to you? So a way to approach this, and the way ActionCOACH approaches this, is to define a business as a commercial profitable enterprise that works without the owner. So what does that mean? Most small business owners think of themselves as the business, but it does not have to be that way. The business is an entity that can stand on its own if we commit ourselves to that as a decision and a goal. The business does not have to be the owner. The owner sets up the business, then puts people in it so that the business can make money for the owner without the owner having to work in it. And that's this point about remembering to work on the business, not in the business. If we get all wrapped up in the sales and marketing and delivery of product and the bookkeeping that goes with it, then we get all tangled up in the day-to-day tasks. And that's not really helping us grow forward. We have to step back and look strategically, at least 4 or 5 hours a week. What strategically are we needing to accomplish, and where are we trying to take the business from here? How well are our systems working now, and what do we have to change about them so that they can work a little bit better? We can never afford to get complacent about the behavior and the performance of the systems that we're working, we have to constantly be looking for ways to improve the systems. And as we do that, we can grow the business by paying attention to how well we can make those systems perform. And the objective is to make them perform better and better. That doesn't mean we have to get faster and faster and faster and faster. That means we have to get more effective at finding people to do the work for us. So we have to start with that paradigm that we're building a machine and that we are ourselves limited. So how do we use our time most effectively to achieve what we're trying to achieve? So think about what's your goal. What's your goal with your business? Let's start with where you are now. What is the situation you are in at this particular moment in time? Essentially, what's our starting point? What revenue is your business generating? And that results in your profitability. Therefore, what kind of a home do you live in? What do you drive? What investments have you made? These are the basic outcomes from the effectiveness of your ability to grow your business to the stage it's at right now. And then similarly, where are we trying to get to? So using 5 years as the example, where do you want to be in 5 years? At that point in time, what's your goal for your revenue and therefore your profit? So at that profit, what kind of a house do you live in? What do you drive? What investments have you made? And so on and so forth. So we want to think about our starting point, which is here today. And then what's our goal? This is similar to making a trip across the country, let's say from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco. What kind of a route do we want to take to San Francisco? There's the quick route, which is the interstates, but even that can take us in a variety of directions. But then there's those scenic routes, if you will, that we can take. Which one will you take? Well, this becomes a part of the process, and we have to think about where are we starting from, where are we going to, and what's the basic map we want to take so that we know that we get to the destination in the period of time we're trying to get there. There are some basic keys to business success. The principal keys are based on leverage, which is using a lever, essentially a lever, to get more outcome from the strength that we've got today or the way we're doing things today. People are a key component of leverage. Systems are a key component of leverage. Technology can be a key component of leverage. Sales and marketing processes can also be a key component of leverage if you think about it. So these become the tools to generate success. If we focus on us being the business, then we don't have very much leverage. But if we work through people, we can achieve far more than what we can do ourselves. If we employ systems, we can do more than we can by just the people alone. If we employ technology, we can enhance the systems and so on and so forth. So, for example, some people think sales and marketing is an expense. I have to spend money to get customers? My goodness, what kind of a thought could that be? And obviously, since expense is on the expenses side of the P&L statement, it must be a bad thing. And we got to be really, really careful about this because there's another approach to this entire equation. If we only think of sales and marketing as an expense, then it's very difficult to enhance what we're accomplishing with it. If instead we think of sales and marketing as an investment, now we're working on the basis of putting money in with the expectation of getting money out. So for example, for every $1 we put in, we should get more than $1 out. Now, some businesses that doesn't work quite so well, and some businesses it does. And there's a difference on how people approach this. It's been said that 80% of marketing does not work. And people allow themselves to get tangled up because they try something and it doesn't produce the result that they're looking for. So they give up. They blame marketing as an expense and they walk away and they hope for referrals that come in for free. Now, the problem is they missed an opportunity. Marketing to find the 20% that does work, we need to approach this from the question of how can I make it work? So we take a look at how do we learn how to be more effective at marketing? What is it that attracts customers of the type we're looking for to the product that we're working to sell? So we want to think about marketing skill. How do we acquire the skill? Now, the easy thing is to just hire somebody, a consultant or a seller of websites or whatever it is that we're looking at next, hire somebody and abdicate that to them. When in reality, what we've got to do is take a close look at what are those factors that attract customers and make sure that that's what we're accomplishing. And then measure the results and change in order to keep better results coming in all the time. So it becomes a constant game of test and improve, test and improve, test and improve. So that is the real secret to making marketing and sales work, is how do we constantly improve the processes that we're employing so that we're getting the results we are looking for. The secret to this we talk about is the phrase test and measure. I like to do A/B testing where we test two different messages against each other, see which performs the best, take the one that performs the best, and then do it again with another comparative message to see which of those works just to constantly improve, constantly improve, constantly improve. This becomes a constant process of test and measure. So this becomes a way of focusing on a constant improvement. So we want to be thinking about this in this way. The goal is to constantly get more customers for less money spent. So as an example, if you invest $300 in advertising and you get 10 customers, essentially each customer costs you $30. And your goal is to reduce that to something significantly less. That's your job as the owner of the business, is to be measuring this, know what it is it costs you to buy a customer, and then continuously try and improve that. Part B of that is if your customers spend $550 a year with you for on average for 6 years, then that's $3,300 to you per customer. Cool, that's a number. Now, how do you get more lifetime value from the average customer? What are the strategies that you can use that can increase that? So if your focus is on these two kinds of numbers, then you can constantly be improving your business. If your primary focus is on being the worker, then you can't focus on these two things. So this is where the different paradigm comes in, is taking a look at how do you approach your business. And this is what we're going to start talking about next, is how to focus the measurements and the tools that allow you to achieve this so that you've got a business that you can scale and constantly be improving. We talk about 5 proven ways to increase your profits. And that display there on the right is a tool that I use to help a customer of mine compare methods of improving their results month after month, year after year, so that they're constantly able to scale up and grow their business. It's also a tool that we use to do some planning, and we even get into some of the business organization structure planning from this perspective as well. The key to this is this formula. So if we sit down and look at this formula, and it's not so much the arithmetic that matters here as it is the understanding of what the variables are and what they mean. Most business owners have a grasp of how many customers that they've got, how much revenue that they're making, and how much they get to take home in their pocket at the end of a given period of time. So that's the basis of what most business owners think about when they're thinking about their business. But unfortunately, and those are the three variables there in red, unfortunately, those three don't really make it easy to develop specific measurable strategies that you can employ to drive a business growth, to scale a business and make it achieve what it is that they want to achieve. So if we change that around and we break the customer's variable up, we can break it up into two things, which is the number of leads times the conversion rate. This all of a sudden gives us a couple of tools that we can use that allow us to drive the number of customers that we're serving up and up and up and up. Similarly, if we want to drive the revenue, we have the number of customers now in control. Then we can look at the number of transactions we have per customer per year, for example. And then we can look at the average dollar sale per customer. That is the arithmetic we need to think about the revenue we're going to achieve and what are the strategies that we can employ that allow us to get those to a level that we can achieve a much higher level of revenue. I'm going to show you an example of this in a minute. Similarly, profit margin is a measurement of efficiency, if you will, of how efficiently do we turn our revenue into what I can, as a business owner, what I can put in my pocket at the end of the day. So if we think about the blue variables there as a machine, again, it's not so much the arithmetic, and this is where we get into how you drive your business in a machine-like way. It's not so much the arithmetic in there as it is this understanding those are 5 different tools that I've got that can drive my business where I want it to go. And I can take it anywhere with that. Now, let's build an example. Let's pretend we've got a business and we're going to put some numbers in this business. So we've got a business that produces 4,000 leads per year. And we convert 25% of those leads to become customers. So now we have 1,000 customers from all of that. Now, let's pretend each customer buys from us twice per year with an average dollar sale of $100. Now, that sale, there may be some customers that spend $1,000 with us. There may be some customers spend $5 with us, but the average is $100. Now we've got a business with a revenue of $200,000. Our efficiency is 25% to convert that to profit. And so the owner can take home $50,000 per year. Straightforward arithmetic. So now let's think about what if we could take those variables and do something different. We can increase each of the blue variables by 10%. So if we're working with the marketing side of things, is it possible to increase the number of leads if we proactively market differently than what we're doing? I happen to have a list here of 86 different ways of increasing numbers of leads. Is there going to be something in there that we could use that could increase our numbers of leads by 10% if we just invest a little bit more into marketing? Most of the time, the answer is yes, and 10% more becomes 4,400 leads. Now, from that point, if we think about our conversion rate of 25%, is it possible we could learn to sell a little bit more effectively Is it possible we could become a better salesperson? And I've got about 83 different ways to improve the efficiency of selling. I've got a list right here can we improve our efficiency of selling 10%, which really just takes us only to 27.5%. Of course it is. So if we think about that, now what have we got? We have 27.5% of 4,400 leads. So we now have 1,210 customers per year. That's a 21% increase over the prior year. That's starting us down the process of scaling a business up. So if we can generate that many customers, let's think a little bit further. Is it possible to increase the number of times a customer wants to buy from us? Now, this is a little bit tricky. Some businesses, it's a little less likely. So for example, if you're selling cars, how many times does a person buy multiple cars in a year? That's an example where it might be a little bit difficult. But there's many businesses, I kind of like haircutting kind of businesses or restaurant kind of businesses for this. Those are examples of ways that you can get customers to come back again and again and again and again. And I've got a list here of about 60 some different ways to increase the number of transactions per customer. So let's pretend we're only going up 10%. That would be 2.2 transactions per customer on average per year. Similarly, what about our average dollar sale? Are there things that we could be selling that would enable our customers to want to buy more stuff from us? Does every single existing customer know every single thing they could buy from you? Is it possible they're not aware of something that they could be buying from you now? Are there some things that they should be able to buy from you that they can't yet because we haven't offered it to them? Is it possible we can increase the average dollar sale by doing some additional things by 10%? And by the way, one of the easiest ways is to just plain raise your price. And that's an entirely different conversation for an entirely different day. But is it possible that we could increase the average dollar sale just 10% and go to 110? What is our new revenue? Well, according to this math, it's just under 300,000, $292,000 and 820. So think about the growth of that. That's 46% growth of revenue in 1 year by getting out of the weeds of our business, getting out of the tactical day-to-day product delivery thinking, and getting into the systematic approach to looking at how do we increase our leads, how do we improve our sales skills, how do we essentially improve our customer service skills, which is what gets the number of transactions up, and how do we make sure that our customers know everything that they can buy from us and that how often that they can get more stuff. That gets our revenue to $292,000. Now, can we improve our efficiency in how we operate our business? Are there things we can do that improves our time utilization so we're focused on the right stuff more of the time so that we can get up 10% again to 27.5, which then takes us to a profit margin of $80,525. This is an example of what can be done if we set specific goals for each of these 5 variables and that we focus our energy and our time on how do we constantly improve our performance on each of those 5 variables, allowing us in 1 year to achieve a 46% increase in revenue and a 61% increase in the profit at the end of the year. Now that is based entirely on that 10% increase. But is it possible to increase some of those variables more than 10%? Yes, it is. Is it possible that we will focus on one at the exclusion of another? Yeah, that's possible at some stages of the game. But as we grow the business and we grow a team, then we can assign people to the task of pursuing goals in each of those 5 different variables. So at the beginning, it may be a little bit tough while we focus on it ourselves. But as we grow, we can do more stuff. So let's take a different spin on this particular issue. Let's pretend we've done this year after year after year after year. Remember, I used the word scaling up a little bit earlier. So the first layer of the scaling up process is to think about this from a year after year. Let's suppose we plan to do this for 6, 7, 8, 10 years. Can we increase those same variables by 100% over that period of time? A reasonable answer is yes. Now, obviously, you've got to test your own business to know where you're starting from. But then we can sit down and build a plan that picks on each variable independently. So now let's take a look at the number of leads. If we did this for several years in a systematic kind of way, is it reasonable to increase the number of leads by 100%? And that would take us to 8,000 leads. Is it possible we can improve our sales skills so that we can achieve a 50% conversion rate instead of a 25% conversion rate? Well, that suggests a 4,000 customer base going from 1,000 to 4,000. Is it possible we can, with 4,000 customers, is it possible we can increase the average number of transactions from 2 to 4? Is it possible we can increase the average dollar sale from 100 to 200? If we can do all of those things, then what's our revenue become? Well, in this math, it becomes 3.2 million. So we've gone from 200,000 to 3.2 million over a handful of years. That's a planned, growing, scale up process. Now, this is not the same business. The first business, the $200,000 business, can obviously be run usually by one person or 1.5 people. A $3.2 million business is going to have a few more people in it. So it's a different approach. Then there's nothing that stops you from continuing on from here, that you can just keep growing by staying focused on this as a machine. Now, profit margins, I'm going to go on. Is it possible we can improve our efficiency at converting revenue to profit? And in this case, going to 50% at one point will produce 1.6 million. Now, on a statistical basis, I'll challenge whether or not 50% is a viable number for everybody. I think that depends entirely on the type of business, the business model that you're in, and how you choose to pursue it. 50% is kind of a stretch, but it is plausible in many cases. And even if you didn't increase it to 50% but stayed at 25, is there anybody here that would turn down an $800,000 income? Because that's what it would be. This is a way to approach a business from a strategic perspective, to take it to any level of income and profit that you want to achieve over the number of years that you plan on being in this business. I'm going to ask the question, is that possible to do in your business? Now, I'm going to let you make some comments on the chat box. Is there any reason it's impossible to do that in your business if you stay focused on those variables? Yes, definitely, but need manpower. Yes, that's a part of the equation. Everybody starts with no manpower, and it becomes a process of taking it one piece at a time. Start with one, focus on one piece at a time, build from there. Nearly every business starts with one person, and that business has to grow. In your particular case, you've got people doing the production side of your business, so there is room for you to be able to take that step, probably more than other one-person businesses that have to do the production themselves as well. So think about the fact you've already got a little bit of leverage built into your situation. Feel free to take advantage of that. Think about how you're using your time. Maybe your time needs to be organized in a little bit different way than you're doing it right now. And that might be the key to this, is a little bit of time blocking to look at it from a different perspective. That's going to take me to the thoughts of what can you do? And so you need to think like an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs don't think about doing product. Entrepreneurs think about how to serve more customers. And that's the entire formula that I've just gone through, is an exercise of thinking like an entrepreneur. So staying focused on those numbers, measuring those numbers, and monitoring your progress with those numbers becomes the key. Building a plan and then following the plan as best you can. And circumstances always change, but building a plan and then following the plan becomes the key. If you keep doing it the way you've always done it, you're going to keep getting what you always got. So really think about how you can go forward by changing the way you're approaching it and go at it from a slightly different way. And that's the key to this whole thing. That goes back to what I said about I know. Think about this from a completely different perspective. Look for ways to change something about what you're doing so that you can become more efficient. Now, this is where I'm going to sit down and say, you've got a couple of things that you can do here. You can try to improve it on your own, the way you've been doing it so far, or trying to take advantage of the ideas I've just thrown out. Or you can take advantage of trying to get massive results working with me in some way. So here, I'm just going to share real quickly a couple of options. These are typical programs I work with people on, and it's generally priced high to low, high at the top, low at the bottom. The mentoring can run anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 per month. Generally speaking, the group coaching can run around $600 to $800 per month. Action Club is going to open up in March, early March. This is going to be a form of group coaching, but it's going to be education on one hand, similar to what I just did, and with a mix of group coaching with it as well. That will start in March. Blocks of hours. This is a way I work with people in a very limited capacity for a few hours to work on a project. And then quarterly planning, which is the least expensive of the choices, where we sit down and work in a group once every quarter. So there'll be something coming up in March. The Action Club with a new program is a little bit of a different program. I haven't run this in a while. It starts with an alignment meeting, just one-on-one, and then it's a rolling education program with these basic features in it. It includes books and learning, and it's going to be a webinar-based teaching 1 week, and then group coaching the following week to help with the homework so that we can help you absorb what you've learned and adapt it into your business. That'll be about a 12-month program. My offer to everybody here is a free 1-hour coaching session where we sit down and take the kinds of stuff we've just talked about and think about how to adapt it into your particular business model. And everybody who does that walks away with at least 3 or 4 actionable ideas that they can do. If anybody's not ready to meet, you can always go to my YouTube channel and pick up some videos on some of the topics that I talk about. And so I'll stop here. What questions do you have that I can answer right now from the material we just talked about, or if you got a different topic that you want to look at? Awesome. Super. All right. With that, I am going to wrap it up with a quote from Jim Rohn. And I use this quote a lot. Never wish your life were easier. Wish you were better. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I'm going to translate that to the huddle comment. Learning how to do an efficient huddle every day will help you immensely later. But it does take a little bit of time to sort out the best agenda, but it will help you in the end. And with that, it's time to get into action. So everybody have a great day. Apply what you can. And if you're ready to chat, send me an email. I'm happy to share. And thank you all. Have a great day.